This week on the LIVEcast, we talk about the Grammys and what on earth it all means. Hello, welcome to the LIVEcast. Good to see you all. I'm Paul Feasy.
Hi, and I'm Pete Collison.
Excellent. Good to have you back with us again, Pete. So if you've been watching the LIVEcast for a while, you'll have seen Pete on it a few times now. Because you did it
up a couple of times.
Yeah, you did your little intern section earlier on. Well, I was going to say earlier on in the year, but it was a different year now.
Yeah.
When you first started back in 2019. So we've met you before, and you've stood in for Glenn as well.
Yeah, I did a little Christ into Christmas thing.
That was it. Yeah. That was
December.
Yeah.
A real high point for me in my life.
Yeah, that was all good. So you're getting to be an old hand at this now. So so Glenn and a few of the interns and Dan actually as well. They are all up in Edinburgh at the moment. They're at Edinburgh University, I think. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. Yeah, Edinburgh Uni, and I don't know which one. Is there more than one?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Like a kind of Nottingham Trent type thing going on. There might be. I'm not sure. There might be a couple up there, but they're definitely at one of the universities in Edinburgh. If there is more than one, and they've got the University Mission Week. So I'm assuming Glenn is speaking. I mean, basically, I know nothing. That's my thing. I'm just assuming all these things. Glenn will be speaking. Whether he's the speaker for the whole week, I'm not sure. Sometimes they have different people in the mornings and the evenings and stuff. But it'd be good to be praying for him and for the interns and the kind of team up there. Because, I mean, these mission weeks, they're a great opportunity, and you can have lots of good conversations. I mean, we went on one not long ago, didn't we? Where
we were in Bath.
Bath, that was it. Yeah. And that was a great week, wasn't it, as well? So
it was. Yeah, I think Glenn's nursing a bit of a sore throat and stuff, so it'd be good to pray for him. Like you say, lots of opportunities, and I think just pray for the whole team generally would be good, because they're good weeks, but they're grueling weeks as well, aren't they? So
yeah, they take it out of you, that's for sure. And I think we were talking last week, Glenn and I, about talking about his debate with Matt Dillahunty, and he was talking about who are you talking to when you're kind of debating someone. But he'd kind of said, in a similar vein, about when you go to a university mission week, you sometimes get people who stand up and ask questions, and they might be quite combative and stuff. But often you're not really talking to those people, you're talking to the people who are listening in. So, let's pray that there'll be lots of people who are kind of turned up, and maybe they're not there with a kind of an axe to grind, but, they're there to hear stuff, and they may never put their hand up to ask a question, but they might speak to a Christian or have a chat with Glenn afterwards, or just go away, feeling encouraged by what they've heard. And we might never know. So, yeah, it'd be good to pray about that. So, good. So I'm assuming that Glenn's all back next week and we'll be back to normal. So, great. So we're talking a little bit about the Grammys. So the Grammys was last night, I think. Don't know if you saw any of it at all, or
I didn't catch it live. No,
I didn't either. I read this morning, and I'm not sure if this is true. Well, it was on the BBC's in the BBC article about it, but it said that there's something like 2,074 awards at the Grammys. So they don't actually show them all like on the evening, and I think there's actually another event because it said like. On the article, it says something like Harry Potter won like best audio book or something, and I was thinking like, how? Like it's been out for years, So I think there were just thousands and thousands of kind of audio related awards, but the ones you see tend to be the more mainstream stuff. So
it'd be very difficult during all that time to sort of maintain a normal resting face, I would imagine.
Can you imagine sitting through? Yeah, 2,074 awards.
Good grief.
That would be a nightmare, wouldn't it?
It's at least a whole day, I would have thought.
So the kind of big winner last night was Billie Eilish. I hope I'm saying that right. We're both very aware that, as men in our early 30s, still in my early 30s, we are entirely the wrong people to be thinking about the things that are going on down with the kids on the music scene. So Billie Eilish has kind of stormed away with a number of awards last night, and her brother is a kind of, I think he plays a number of instruments with her, like he performs live with her and he produced a lot of music. So I think she started out in her bedroom, or their kind of bedroom, and they record all their stuff there. So I don't think they've ever been a big kind of studio, sound or anything like that. But he seemed to clear. I saw a picture of them with about 10 awards between them. I think she got 5, and then maybe he got 5 as well. I'm not sure how, but they had lots. And I think his were more for the production side. But she won. What have we got here? She won the new artist. So the new artist, record of the year, album of the year, song of the year, and then she also took home best pop vocal album. So that's 5 Grammys. Apparently that kind of makes history. It says she's the youngest solo performer to ever win album of the year. The record holder had been Taylor Swift when she was age 20. So Eilish has kind of beaten her by 2 years there. How much do you know about Billie Eilish? Have you come across her much before?
I've seen a picture of her green hair that she's sporting for this year. But I don't know a ton about her. I sort of immediately, just hearing that, I kind of admire the fact she was able to get up and give 5 speeches.
I hadn't really thought about that.
Who do you thank after the first 2? It's like
just ditto.
Go through the
same
whole.
As last time.
Yeah. But no, I know very little about her, to be honest. A couple of songs and a few lyrics and things like that, but not tons. Like you say, I think there are probably better informed people in the world to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. And we're very aware that anything we say, like most weeks, might be total nonsense. But we're going to have a crack at it anyway. So, I mean, I'd only come across her in the last kind of year or so, 18 months. And I was quite surprised, actually. The albums that she's won awards for this year was apparently her debut album from 2019. And I'd kind of assumed she'd been around for a lot longer, because I think she had appeared. But I think she was one of these people who she got her breakthrough. Her and her brother uploaded a song onto SoundCloud, and it got, 1,000 listens, and then that kind of spread. So I think she had some kind of social media kind of presence, and there was a following building before she ever really had an album out, so to speak. But she just kind of interested me in that she looked very different to what I was seeing on the music scene. So if you've not seen her, she's kind of green haired, and she's not, she doesn't look like a conventional pop star that you see today. So she wears a lot of baggy clothes, and, her music videos are quite dark. They're quite artistic, and, a lot of people would say the things she's doing. I watched one this morning where, she drinks it's entirely kind of white background. She's wearing all white, and she drinks a glass of, like what looks like ink. And then like the ink is coming out of her eyes, and, kind of crying and stuff. And so it's all, heavily stylized stuff. And, the kind of stuff she's singing about is not really the kind of poppy, fluffy Ariana Grande type stuff, or, So, and I was very aware that she was being, she was getting some exposure, ironically, for not exposing herself. So she, wearing all the kind of clothes she wears, it was very much a decision from her part, from what I understand, to not be sexualized by the media, and for people not to be talking about kind of the way she looks, and her body and her shape and stuff like that. So I was kind of aware, I was kind of picking up that about her. I mean, and the only song I really knew, or even now I know well, is the song Bad Guy, which has kind of been one of her big hits, I think, in the last year or so. And so it was just, the reason we kind of picked up on it, or we thought about picking up on it today, is that it was just really interesting to see an artist like her picking up so many awards, like history-making number of awards, given who she is and where she's at, when she just seems so different to what's in the mainstream of music at the moment. And the things she sings about, she's singing about things like depression and addiction and kind of suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. It's very different to the other stuff. So it's, for me, it got me thinking about kind of what is it why has that gripped people so much? And the other kind of thing that happened then at the Grammys, the other performance that was kind of, it's been spoken about quite a lot, was the performance from Demi Lovato. Now, Demi Lovato is, in some ways, couldn't be much further away from a Billie Eilish type figure. So Demi Lovato, I think her background is kind of a Disney Channel kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I think she's come from that, hasn't she? And she's been, come out of that Disney Channel kind of acting thing, and she's been a singer. and it's been, from what I understand, quite kind of poppy. So she sung on Frozen, didn't she? She did a version of Let It Go, which was on the film as well. I know this because I have children and I've heard it 100 times.
I have no excuse. I just know it.
You just know. Just a massive Demi Lovato fan. So she's kind of in some sense, your kind of pop princess at the other end. But she's also had quite a lot of issues over the last few years. So quite publicly, Demi Lovato has been, I think back in 2018, she had a kind of near fatal overdose. So she's had a lot of issues with drugs and stuff. There's been a lot of issues to do with like eating disorders and self-harm and stuff. And she was in rehab. She's had a bit of a breakdown and stuff like that. And so she's been, kind of scrutinised over all those things anyway. But she kind of made a bit of a comeback last night with this song that she sang, which was a song called Anyone, which apparently she wrote, reportedly she wrote a few days before she overdosed, kind of back in 2018. And we're going to have a look at a clip. We'll have a look at a clip of this performance, and we'll see what you make of it.
100 million songs, I feel stupid when I sing. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's listening. I talk to shooting stars, but they always get it wrong. I feel stupid when I pray. So why am I praying anyway? If nobody's listening, anyone, please send me anyone. Lord, is there anyone? I need someone. Oh, anyone, please send me anyone. Lord, is there anyone? I need someone.
She's there singing, and it's an incredibly kind of, well, she's obviously very emotional through this performance. She's got tears streaming down her face, and I mean, we don't see in the clip there, but she restarted the song because she kind of couldn't quite get through the first line. And the lyrics, I don't know if you hear some on the video there, but she says kind of, nobody's listening to me, nobody's listening. I feel stupid when I pray, so why am I praying anyway if nobody's listening? Anyone, please send me anyone. Lord, is there anyone? I need someone. Oh, anyone, please send me anyone. Lord, is there anyone? I need someone. So, when you kind of get a sense of, when you kind of know what she's coming from, the background she's had, you can kind of see like why she might be singing these things. And actually she got a standing ovation at the end, and like I say, it's trending on Twitter along with the Billie Eilish stuff. And it really just got me thinking, like, here are these two people who are, quite different, but actually the things that Billie Eilish is singing about are very different, from what's in the, like I say, in the mainstream. And she's singing about things with a bit more depth, probably. A lot of music is just going out to the party and getting drunk and hooking up with people. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff, particularly in the last few years.
I feel particularly bitter about all the rap songs where people are like, I've got abs. And I'm just kind of like, good for you. Good for you. Some of us have been trying for the best part of 15 years. It's like, still no abs.
It's like, I do have abs. They're just hidden. They're like subcutaneous. They're hidden away at the moment under a nice little layer of fat. But and so and it is, you've had that style of, there's been that kind of content in music lyrically and like stylistically, the way things look, the way women have been portrayed and men have been portrayed, and it's all been a lot about that. It's very highly polished kind of stuff. And then you get these two people, one of whom is not highly polished at all and is kind of singing about things a bit more depth, a bit darker, grittier stuff. And then Demi Lovato, who does come from that kind of quite polished Instagram kind of world, but yet it's been very obvious that stuff isn't really real, and for her, life has been quite tricky, that her fame hasn't given her an easy life, and she struggled with drugs and all kinds of stuff. And singing that song, a lot of people said that looks like a cry for help, and whether that's exactly where she is now or whether that was where she was 2018, I don't know. But the question, it got me thinking, why is it that these things have caused such a stir? Like, why is Billie Eilish so popular, and why is this Demi Lovato performance caught people's attention? Why is this kind of appealing to so many people at the moment? I don't know whether you have kind of any Thoughts on any of those things? Like, why has this come to the fore?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We were talking earlier, and we were kind of saying, actually, is this kind of content that is connecting with what's already there, or is this content that is kind of creating a culture that becomes self-fulfilling? It's an interesting idea, and I don't want to pretend that I know the answer to that.
No.
I think that would be a really kind of foolish waste of people's time to pretend that, you know, I don't know.
Very open about that. But
yeah.
We're just taking up some punts here.
But it is interesting, isn't it? Just to think, well, actually, is this a song that people are hearing and they're going, actually, that's me. That's where I'm at right now. That's kind of the cry of my heart, and therefore, is there that kind of connection with it where people are going, yes, she really gets it, or is it actually just something that, you know, because you talked about kind of the abstract and artistic nature of the lyrics and the videos and stuff like that, whether people are looking as more of a kind of, oh, that's interesting and it's edgy and I kind of admire it from a distance, or I mean, you know, I feel like on a personal level I meet with and chat to a lot of people who would probably say the former rather than the latter, and so, you know, from my perspective, I would look and say, actually, I think this is a cry that a lot of people would relate to firsthand, and therefore I think that's kind of where the connection comes from. But you know, you don't want to generalise and say that's people's experience across the board.
Absolutely, and I think it's definitely the case that there will be people for whom, like, it's kind of cool to be a bit edgy and to like that kind of thing, even though they don't really, you know, it's just the thing to like, you know, and they'll be doing it for those reasons and kind of engaging with it for those reasons. But
well, you were talking about Regina. What's her face?
Regina George from Mean Girls. There you go. I'm really dating myself now. They're kind of Regina George from Mean Girls. You know, there could be that aspect. Regina George going like, oh yeah, I love Billie Eilish. You know, like she's so fetch. You know, like, but in no way would that kind of her music really connect with a Regina George, apart from like, oh, Billie Eilish is a bit cool. If you've got no idea what we're talking about, don't worry about that. Go and watch Mean Girls. It's a great film. You should check it out.
That's the takeaway from today, isn't it?
Go and watch Mean Girls. Go and watch Mean Girls. Thanks for watching the LIVEcast. And I think though, like you say, is it the case that maybe some of this stuff where you see, I mean, for want of a better word, some people have used the word authentic. You know, is it the reason people have heard both these, you know, this song from Demi Lovato, or they've heard Billie Eilish's kind of stuff and connected with it, is because for them they go, actually, yeah, life is a bit like this sometimes. Life isn't quite like the Instagrammy world we've been brought up in, and particularly, you know, this younger generation, you know, they've grown up in a social media world, probably in a generation where we're only beginning now to really start to question social media a bit more and go, is this good? And like, is it, you know, what are the positives and the negatives? And we know there's a lot of falseness behind it, you know. And I was saying to you, wasn't I, that, you know, a few people have compared Billie Eilish. I heard them saying that she was a bit like, almost like Nirvana, not stylistically, you know, not in terms of what she's like her musical style, but in terms of the way she's kind of smashed into kind of the accepted culture music wise, and just had a very different sound. And when, I mean, I hope that I'm not just becoming a grumpy old man type thing, but to my mind at least, the last sort of 10 years of music has been, it hasn't seemed to me like you've had those kind of rebellious figures of music, you know, who have had that edginess. It's all been quite pedestrian and straight down the line. But you think back to when a band like Nirvana burst onto the scene, and it had come out of the 80s where everything was very poppy and processed, and even in the kind of the rock side of music, it had become, you know, there was the hair metal type stuff and the spandex, and it was all a kind of rebellion against that. And so it felt rebellious, and obviously the stuff Nirvana was singing about was, you know, very angsty and stuff, and that obviously connected with people. And I remember like The Prodigy coming out and people being really like, you know, it was almost like a national panic. Like, he's singing about being a fire starter, and, you know, look at the way he looks and stuff, Keith Flint, you know, and so people were talking, you know. It's interesting that, you know, here's this figure who's suddenly appeared, maybe in this kind of slightly Instagrammy world, who is kind of looks like a rebel figure, but maybe there are some people at least who, when they hear us singing about these kind of things, or they hear even Demi Lovato sing about these kind of things, say this is more real to me than the fake Instagrammy type stuff that we're dealing with often there. And I mean, I did a bit of looking into kind of, you know, it seems to me at least that there's a lot of talk these days about the mental health issues amongst young people. And I don't know how much of it's scaremongering or whatever, but, just some stats I pulled up earlier is that kind of says something like 20% of adolescents may experience mental health problems in any given year. 50% of mental health problems are established by age 14, 75% by age 24. 10% of children and young people aged 5 to 16 years have a clinically diagnosable mental problem. Yet 70% of children and adolescents who experience mental health problems have not had appropriate interventions at sufficiently early age. So, I mean, it just struck me, maybe, there was something out there that when someone finally started singing about stuff, people who were maybe not in the best place went, actually, yeah, I kind of connect with this. And
yeah, and I think this is one of the things that I find quite encouraging about this story is that, like you say, for the longest time, pop was so kind of mundane and pedestrian and just the same. You'd heard one pop song, you'd heard them all, kind of thing.
Yeah,
not like the classics of our day, like S Club 7,
Steps.
Yeah, all that. So we're coming from a really meaty age there. But,
oh yeah, all the classic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but particularly the last 10 years, I think you're dead right. It's all about cars and money and naked girls and whatever else, and there's no real substance to it. But obviously this is a very much a kind of a darker genre of music. But actually with that, the positive thing about it from a Christian perspective is there's a bit more to talk about. There's a bit more meat in this, and you're kind of reading through some of the lyrics of the Demi Lovato song, and she's referencing kind of prayer and is anybody even listening and that kind of stuff. It's like, well, at least someone in the public eye is asking a really big, sensible question that's got some substance to it. So that's the encouraging side. Yeah,
I think so. And maybe, and it seems odd, doesn't it, in some ways, to be saying, isn't it encouraging that people are... But I think it once you pull away the veneer of kind of this, outward pretense that everything's rosy and amazing, I think that's when really good conversations start to happen. Often, I would say the best conversations I've had in life is either when I have or other people have opened up with people and basically been like, what, actually stuff isn't always great and I don't always feel okay. And I mean, I can't remember where I pulled this from, but someone was saying about Billie Eilish, she's like, maybe she really is the voice of her generation, and the polished fake world that social media has pressured us into over the past decade is becoming history. I suddenly understand why this eccentric girl is such a relief. And maybe that's the case. Maybe that is part of the reason that people have cottoned on to her so much, or can understand what Demi Lovato sing about. I mean, I think the why this is a good thing for us, and this is what we're going to get to really, is like, why is this a good thing? Why is it encouraging for us as Christians? Is that, like you say, people are asking a question like, or saying, when I pray, is anyone listening? Lord, is there someone there? Please send me anyone. And actually, we've got a message that says, well, you know what, there is someone. Because if you're listening to Billie Eilish and you're going, I'm connecting with this, because stuff is rough, or you're listening to Demi Lovato and saying, yeah, I'm connecting with this because I'm in these places. What I don't think either Demi Lovato or Billie Eilish do, and I'm not hugely familiar with Billie Eilish's stuff, or Demi Lovato stuff, if I'm honest, I don't think they really offer any answers to it. They just say, well, isn't this the way it is? And that's a good start for us to be like, hey, we're all in this together, and we're kind of broken. But what we have an opportunity as a church to do is say, like, yeah, you know what, there is someone. You're saying, is anyone listening? Yes, someone is listening, and someone has been sent for you. Jesus has come. And I wonder whether the church just has an opportunity in the midst of maybe this kind of generation. If it really is the case, and we've not completely just made this up, if it is the case that people are feeling like that, and do realise there's a brokenness, or at least, that they're faking their way through life. There's a real benefit in the church being able to say, look, you know what, yeah, we are broken, but there is someone who's come for people who are broken. And it strikes me that, I don't know how in the last however many years, because I lose track of how quickly time goes, but there's definitely been a sense, there was at least in the kind of youth work world at one point, this quite lovey-dovey approach to stuff where it was kind of, let's tell everybody how amazing and beautiful they are. and I get that, there's the kind of, we're fearfully and wonderfully made and, made in the image of God, and there is a wonderful truth in there. But that can go to such an extreme, and I think in some cases it did. I remember the Babylon Bee running an article that said something, a headline was something like, woman doesn't know why she needs Jesus because the pastor has been telling her why she's so great for the last 5 minutes or whatever. It was all along those lines. But I think, there is a place for just acknowledging the brokenness and saying, look, there is someone who can walk with you in it, and actually there is a light. That doesn't mean it's like, hey kids, become a Christian, and if you're feeling low, that's all going to change, because we know that's just not how it works. But if you're a Demi Lovato or a Billie Eilish, and you're feeling the way they feel or have felt at different times, there is, without something else, there is no real hope there. There's no hope that it will ever necessarily go.
Well, it kind of reflects in the lyrics, doesn't it? They're only questions. They're only questions and complaints of the way reality is. And complaints probably isn't the right word, is it? But, these lyrics, as you read through them, it's a real, like we touched on before, kind of cry for help. And that's not a criticism. That's just an observation that actually, there's a real cry for help here. And so as you go through the lyrics, like you're saying, there are no real solutions or answers to any of this stuff. It's just, here's a problem, here's the way I feel, this sucks, and it doesn't really get to a solution, which is the sad thing about it. But I do think there's an important moment for the church to say, look, actually, let's try and respond to some of this stuff, because I think the temptation in the past on numerous issues has been, that seems like a dark thing, that seems like an unhelpful thing, let's not engage with it. And I think this represents clearly, from the awards that Billie's won, it clearly represents something that a lot of people are connecting with and kind of understand as part of their own story as well. So I think, one of the things I say quite a lot is, I think Christianity should be presented less as an accessory to your life and more as a necessity to your soul. And so it's this idea of saying, well, I think a lot of times the gospel gets presented as, if you start following Jesus, then you're going to be less anxious, you're going to be less fearful, you're going to be less worried about things. And we don't want to ever present the gospel as a silver bullet to people's problems. That's not what I'm saying. But it gets presented as a kind of a feel-good accessory a lot of the time. And actually, when you read through these lyrics, what you're seeing is people are in the midst of a battle that they feel like they can't win. Yeah. And so actually, we need to kind of pull a little bit away from this kind of fluffy presentation of, faith is an accessory to your life that will help lift your mood, and move more towards, actually, if you feel terrible, that's understandable, but you need to know there's a battle going on that you're a part of. That's why you feel terrible, because being in a war sucks, but someone's won it. Yeah. And so, it's kind of this... Yeah, I don't know. I think when you hear the gospel getting presented in quite a kind of woolly, feel-good accessory to your life kind of way, and then you see people like this who are really suffering out loud in public, you go, crikey, I think we need to actually just kind of move away from the fluffy stuff, get right stuck into the fact life's a war zone, and we're not going to win it on our own, so we need a representative who can. So I think it's, we need to look at it and say, how can we speak into this? And I think the answer is just to go straight for the centre of the gospel. Jesus has won the victory that you couldn't win for yourself.
Yeah, and that language of kind of a battle, and there is a spiritual battle going on. In a sense, everything is a spiritual battle, but there is a spiritual battle for people's souls, isn't there? And it's true, isn't it? It's in Colossians. I forget whether it's chapter 1 or 2, but. And it talks about, Jesus having disarmed the powers and made public spectacle of them through the cross. And actually, I think, that is true. It's to say, look, there is victory. We can have victory over these things. And that doesn't necessarily, like we say, doesn't mean everything's going to be rosy and good, but we can know there is a hope, and a great hope for the future, kind of in the midst of it. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thoughts off the back of, this thing, like, why is it that these things have taken a hold? But actually there is something as Christians we can respond to, which I think is a positive for us. So anyway, those are kind of the thoughts, we've had on that sort of issue. And, maybe you've got thoughts, do let us know about those things down in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. Just a reminder, do be praying for Glenn and for the rest of the team who are up in Edinburgh at the moment on the mission week at the uni there. They're in their kind of spiritual battle, so be praying that they would... the gospel would speak to people and there'll be good conversations. Pray for the Christian Union because there'll be follow-up time as well. Obviously, after the week is finished, they'll be trying to follow up with all the people they've made contact with, and that'll be an ongoing thing. So do keep praying for them. And I think we probably pretty much just about leave it there, Pete.
I think so.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us again, Pete. It's been good to have you.
Yeah, no problems.
Lovely. And I hope everyone takes care, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks very much. Bye.